And I'm coming to you today from our son's house in Superior, Colorado, which is the northern Denver suburb. It's directly southeast of Boulder, which is in the valley behind my head. Some those of you familiar with this area might recognize at the extreme upper right of my background a mountain peak called Long's Peak. Well, my Tech Talk topic for today is ATSC 3.0, also known as NextGen TV. So what is ATSC 3.0? ATSC 3.0. ATSC stands for the Advanced Television Systems Committee, an industry-sponsored group that sets standards for over-the-air broadcast TV as approved by the US FCC. ATSC 3.0 represents a major leap over the current 1.0 standard for antenna users. From this point on, I'll simply call these two standards 3.0 and 1.0. In January 2020, ATSC welcomed the news that the ITU, International Telecommunications Union, has adopted 3.0 as a recommended digital broadcast standard for the world, in effect, paving the way for countries around the world to evaluate and use the IP-based digital broadcast standard. 3.0 greatly expands flexibility and adaptability for broadcasters, allowing them to transmit data that will both enhance TV broadcasts and provide new revenue opportunities. For your information, 1.0 is the designation used retroactively to describe the first digital standard developed by the ATSC around 1996. Or 92, I believe, which ushered in the revolution of the HDTV, high-definition television and broadcast surround sound that we enjoy today. In Canada, broadcasters are not mandated by the CRTC, which is the Canadian Radio and Television Commission, to deliver 3.0. The same is true in the US. However, the FCC has partially subsidized and incentivized the adoption of 3.0, so it will be going forward in the US. And what is NextGen TV? NextGen TV is the ATSC's name used to promote the 3.0 standard worldwide. NextGen's logo is shown at the right. 3.0 NextGen TV's standards include Ultra HD 4K video, HDR, high dynamic range, high frame rates up to 120 hertz and more. Proponents also claim better TV reception indoors, and if the cellular industry approves, on your phone as well. NextGen TV also provides consistent volume across channels, while Voice Plus dialogue enhancement allows one to hear all the voices clearly. It uses the same standard TV antennas available today, and NextGen TV is free. Good news. NextGen TV is incompatible, that's bad news, with tuners in present-day TV sets. Fortunately, three major TV manufacturers, LG, Samsung, and Sony, have been offering TVs that include a 3.0 standard tuner since 2020 and are expanding their offerings through 2021 and beyond. Most, if not all, new TVs in the future will have tuners that accommodate both the newer 3.0 and the present TV 1.0 standards for at least 5 years. As NextGen TV becomes more and more popular here and worldwide, other TV manufacturers are expected to join LG, Samsung, and Sony in offering compatible TVs. Another option for receiving NextGen TV with your present TV is to purchase an external 3.0 tuner. These currently cost around $200, but prices are expected to drop to a fraction of that as 3.0 TVs proliferate. According to ATSC.org, which you can go to and get a lot of very current information, viewers in South Korea have been enjoying 4K video and immersive audio via 3.0 since 2017. The US rollout, for the most part, began early last year. With a focus on the top 10 Nielsen markets, NextGen TV is expected to increase implementation in more than 80 U.S. cities by the end of 2021 and will cover more than 70% of the U.S. population. That's pretty big. Here's a U.S. map showing the fledgling status of NextGen TV through this year. This map, if you look at it, first notice the orange areas. Orange are the areas that are now on the air with NextGen TV or ATSC 3.0. The blue areas are readying broadcasts at this time and hopefully will be on the air by the end of the year. And the black areas have been announced as target markets, and some of them will make it this year or perhaps next year. Many NextGen TV features have not yet been implemented, but it's still quite early. Timeline-wise, we're perhaps 15 to 20 years behind if we use the HD TV rollout for comparison. That started back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Those early days of HDTV were rocky at best and weren't seen by many people, thankfully. Also similar to those early HDTV broadcast days, there's very little current or very little content at Ultra HD 4K video resolution at this time. There's a potential downside to internet-based NextGen TV because TV broadcasters can track your viewing habits to gain information for targeted advertising, just like companies such as Google, Facebook, and Amazon do today. I'll be telling you more about that in part 2 of this presentation. Meanwhile, here's some other general information on HD TV. If you presently receive your TV from streaming, cable, or satellite, NextGen TV will affect you very little, if at all, perhaps mainly in TV subchannels. Transition to 3.0 standards by TV broadcast stations is voluntary, though many stations, as shown earlier on the US map, are already in process. Stations adding NextGen TV are required to continue broadcasting the older 1.0 TV for 5 years. How will NextGen TV work in your home? The simplest description is an antenna connected to your TV gets you better free TV, but that's selling NextGen TV way short. Since NextGen TV is primarily internet protocol based, on the internet, it can be used just like today's smartphones, tablets, and computers and internet connected TVs. One example of how this might work is having your TV antenna connected to a tuner box and not connected directly to your TV. That makes it more expandable to other devices. Unlike the switch over to digital broadcast TV a dozen years ago, the FCC has not granted over-the-air TV broadcasters new bandwidth during the 3.0 rollout. They had to have that so they could have both systems simultaneously for a while. Consequently, broadcasters will need to temporarily share transmitters. 2 or more stations will combine to use one tower for 1.0 broadcasts and also combine to use another tower for the 3.0 NextGen broadcasts. Quality may suffer a bit, however, but it'll be temporary. One of NextGen TV's more controversial features is a return data path, a way for the station you're watching to know you're watching. This creates the opportunity for every marketer's dream, targeted ads. Ah, yes, targeted ads. I'll be telling you more about that and other NextGen TV stuff in part 2 of this presentation next week. In the meantime, stay safe, have a great day, and we'll see you next week. And I'm sticking with it.
It's Ron Brown with Tech for Seniors. Today's topic is virtual reality for seniors. Now you know the routine. If you like this video, please click the like and also subscribe to the channel. It really helps our channel and people wanting to watch this video. Let's get on with the show. Now this presentation is going to be in 3 parts. The first part will be the history of virtual reality. Part 2 is what can you buy in 2021? The hardware. We'll look at the hardware associated with virtual reality. Part 3 will be What should seniors use virtual reality for? Now let's look at the history of virtual reality. Where did it all start? What can we define as virtual reality? And let's look at Holland in 1881. The man's name was Hendrik Willem Mesdag. But if we were not so strict and we could argue that virtual reality goes back to the 19th century, let's look what could have happened in 1881. This was the year that the panorama Mesdag was finished. Now this is a very large painting. It's a cylindrical panorama painting of approximately 14 meters high and set up with a circumference around 120 meters. The painting is one of the oldest 19th century panoramas in the world. It is a view of the North Sea, the dunes, the Hague, and as Scheveningen. Excuse my Dutch. Now, as Rembrandt is associated with Amsterdam and Vermeer is with Delft, so Mesdag is associated with The Hague. Mesdag was born in Holland in 1831 and later moved to The Hague with his wife. He was considered an influential man in the art world of The Hague. And he was an important painter and a member on a lot of arts council. The contract for painting this panorama came from Belgium, where such paintings were a huge trend. Mesdag didn't actually paint this all by himself. He painted this with his wife. He painted it with students and other people who helped him paint this very large painting. And this could arguably be the first virtual reality painting that we have. And if you go to The Hague today, there's a large museum. And you'll see in this picture people coming up in the center of the museum and looking at 360-degree view right around. Pretty impressive. You could always argue that in 1939, this also could have been the first virtual reality. This was invented in 1839. This 3D illusion was achieved by lining up two mirrors to reflect two images, as photography had not yet progressed to have images, so they appeared as drawings. And so this is how you had a 3D image in 1839. Now in 1939, Sawyer Incorporated was one of the largest color postcard producers of the time. And it streamlined the device even more by taking color images, and we had Kodachrome film then, and making it available by placing them between two discs. In other words, 14 images for 7 stereo views. And then you inserted this disc into a special viewer and eventually became known as a Viewmaster later on. And this was a device that was a big hit in 1939 at the World's Fair. And as Sawyer Incorporated was a postcard company, the first reels were a series of travel-related images of the Grand Canyon and Carlsbad Caverns. Now, Sawyer Incorporated acquired True Vision, a competing stereo manufacturer, and the process, the rights to use Walt Disney Studio characters in their reels, was obtained. A year later, in 1952, a home-use camera was even sold so families could make their own reels. Several models of the Viewmaster were developed, including a model known for illumination. In 1962, saw the arrival of the modern Viewmaster. Model E was streamlined and now made of lighter plastic, and we have a picture of it here. I'm sure we all had one of those when we were way back when. Now in 1962, the first immersive experience happened. Fast forward when the machine was introduced, known as one of the earliest examples of immersive multi-sensor technologies. This way the machine was capable of triggering all the senses in an effective manner. And the experience was about riding on a motorcycle through the New York streets while feeling the wind blowing through your hair, hearing the sounds of the city, and inhaling the smells of the city. And here you have a picture of the Sensorama in 1962, one of the first virtual reality machines that we had. A few years later, it was 1968. The most people argue as the year the first head-mounted display was developed. This head-mounted display was entitled HeadSight and was made for helicopter pilots in the military. Head movements would move a remote camera, allowing the user to naturally look around in the camera. And here's an example of that. But the HeadSight was not actually developed for virtual reality applications. It was mostly a military application. And it wasn't until 1987 when a man by the name of John Lanier used the term virtual reality for the first time when he developed VR gear, virtual reality gear. Now, during the 1990s to the 2000s, there was certainly a decrease in popularity of virtual reality. During the 1990s, Jaron Lanier, but also Tom Zimmerman, marketed a range of virtual reality gear. However, the hype around the technology had an adverse effect and led to a decrease in popularity. Don't know if anybody remembered some of the early machines we had, and this is one that never really had much popularity. This was called Virtual Boy, and it came out by Nintendo. Now, between the year 2000 and 2010, not much worth mentioning happened when it comes to head-mounted displays. However, some technologies related to virtual reality, such as Google Street View, that eventually was supported 3D, were developed in this period. Now, really, between 2010 and 2015, virtual reality was reborn. In 2010, things started to get moving again. A man by the name of Palmer Luckey designed the first prototype of the Oculus Rift in his garage. Remember Bill Gates? Remember that story? And in 2012, they presented the first example of the Oculus Rift for the E3 gaming trade show. Well, in 2013 and 2014, Oculus shipped their first and second development kits ordered through their Kickstarter project. But it wasn't until 2014 Oculus was purchased by Facebook. Sony also announced a VR headset that was later going to become the PlayStation. Palmer Luckey didn't win the lottery, but he did suddenly find himself with a life-changing amount of money when he sold his startup to Facebook for over $2 billion when he was just 21 years old. Luckey is the co-founder of Oculus, the virtual reality technology company that makes the Rift VR headset. Between 2015 and 2020, we saw a rise in virtual reality. In 2015, HTC combined with a company called Valve and announced the HTC Vive headset with controllers and base station to allow for positional tracking using infrared light. In 2016, HTC was ready to ship its first unit called the HTC Vive Stream VR headset. This was the first commercial release of a sensor-based tracking which allowed for free movement of the users within a predefined space in their own living room. In 2017, Sony filed a patent that indicated they were developing a similar location tracking technology as the Vive for their PlayStation virtual reality. It also showed potential for the development of a wireless VR headset. And of course, in 2018, Oculus launched their first commercially available VR headset, which has a built-in screen that was affordable. There are many companies making virtual reality products. But if you go to Best Buy, you really have one of three choices. You'll have a choice of the Vive HTC, the Quest 2, the Oculus Quest 2, or the PlayStation VR. Well, there is one more. This is made by Microsoft. This is the HoloLens 2. It's not found at Best Buy. In fact, you can only buy it from Microsoft. And that's because it's $3,500. Yikes! Anyway, we'll be talking a little bit about that in one of our later videos. HoloLens is the most comfortable mixed reality device with industry-leading solutions that deliver an immersive experience, all enhanced by reality, security, and scalability of cloud and AI services from Microsoft. We'll be hearing a lot more about the HoloLens 2 this year. Well, as they say, stay tuned for part 2. It's Ron Brown with Tech for Seniors.
To paste formatted text as plain text in Windows 10. I'm Hewie Poplock. I may not be the typical person, but I find myself often wanting to copy text from an article or a website and put it in a document and have my own formatting, not their formatting, because it may not be the fonts I want. It may have bolding, it may have paragraph markings, it may be intermixed with some graphics. There may be a lot of reasons I want to change the formatting. I found an article this past week and I started to look at it, and I was going to use it as the basis of this presentation, but I found that a lot of things didn't work the way they explained it. Let's take a look at the article. How to paste as plain text in Windows 10. And here's an area. Let's just take this, how to paste, and we're going to copy this. When we copy it, if we paste it now into a Word document, let's paste it with Control V, and I do it, and here's what it looks like in my document. That's not how I want it to be. Judging by the article, one of the ways in which we can do that is using the Control-Shift-V. We've already copied it, so when we bring our document over and we do a Control-Shift-V, nothing. Absolutely nothing. It doesn't work. According to the article, this is their #1 way of doing this. What are our alternatives? What can we do? Well, so I jumped down to the second item, and it said using the paste special key. And when I do that, that's not there either. Windows has changed in the way they do things. So we've got a couple of choices here that we're going to have to change a little bit. The third is by using Notepad, and I use this trick a lot. And let's go ahead and let me show you what I mean. We're going to open up a Notepad. And Notepad, if you're not familiar with it, is just that. It's a notepad. It's a non-formatting text editor. So if I paste into this, it's exactly what I want. Text that's not formatted. Then I can copy it again, and now I'm going to bring my Word document over. I'm going to paste it into my Word document, Control V, and you can see that it's unformatted. Now I can say, okay, let's do this. Let's make this a heading. Let's go ahead and make this a different font. Oh, I like that one. I don't, but I'll use it anyway. And let's say we're going to make it 26. And so we've got that, and then we can make this italic. And then we're going to go ahead and bullet point, not number it like it was. And then we have a bullet. So we've done our own formatting. That's why you might want to do something like this. So that's one way, using Notepad as an intermediary. Copy and paste into Notepad, copy and paste from Notepad to whatever whether it be a Word document, your email program, Gmail, Outlook, whatever. So number 3 works. Number 4 probably works, but I don't use the clipboard. I use a program called Clipmate, which keeps track of all of these things. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to bring Clipmate over to show you what I see with Clipmate. And there's a long list. It maintains a whole list of all of the clips that I've done, all of the copying that I've done. You'll notice this mark right here. It says remove line breaks between paragraphs. Press Control to remove all the line breaks and so on. So what I can do is, when we go to Word, let's take the original document, and we're going to take, again, this area right here. And then when we bring over our Word document, Clipmate program, the program that I use called Clipmate, and I have done a recording of how to use and what Clipmate is, and I'll put that in the notes. But if I click, all I do is click that one button, and I don't know if you noticed down here, it changed it from the fact that there were some links and so on to a little notepad. Now when I go and I just click Control V, it's already stripped out. Not only is it stripped out all of the format, it's even stripped out the paragraph marks and so on. Now there's some other ways. Now remember, it said here that we should be able to, let me move this out, and said, remember I said through the keyboard shortcut, and it doesn't work. Well, there's some ways around that. It is long and tedious, but you can do it. In Word, what we have to do is go to File, go to Options down at the bottom, then go to Advanced, then down here where it says Cut, Copy, and Paste, you'll see some areas here. One is pasting from other programs. That's what we're going to do. That's what we want to, so we want to keep text only. We click that and click OK. We can save this. Now, if we copy this and then go to our document, we should see, do a Control V, it's doing it that way because we're doing it from another document. The problem with this is, what if I want to use the format in another document? I've got to go back and undo what I just did as a setting in Word. So let's see what else we can do. We can also try a third-party program that was recommended in the article that I was using. I am not familiar with the program, but if we click on this and go to Pure Text, there is a free program which will allow us to install the program and then be able to set up a set of keystrokes to take care of whenever we want to do this. We do a Control V and paste. We've got our document that we're reproducing. You'll notice down here there is a control key. There's paste options. When you click on that, you've got several things that you can do. The first one being keep your source formatting, which is what we're seeing here. The next one would be merge formatting, and it'll look like this. Or you can do this, which is use destination styles. So whatever your formatting is in the document you're pasting it to, it would pick that up. Or keep text only, and you can click there. That's probably the quickest and easiest thing to do. So don't forget this little box that pops up every time you paste something. Look at the paste options. And then set your default paste so you can set a default and then always change it to something else.